Yeah, so this is just to wrap up where we ended off yesterday with the DSA installing. So there was a problem with the install, and I just rebooted and removed it, and then reinstalled it right away, and it went in. So now the DSA is back on my machine, and we've completed the MSMQ reinstall and the DSA reinstall, and that is going to fix a majority of your problems when you just can't figure out what's wrong. Most of the time, I would say it's configuration, wrongly filtered or whatever. But sometimes you'll get some internal errors with the DSA, and that a lot of time comes down to strange attributes missing, maybe on the user object, or a provisioning system has got a hold of them. Some stuff like that. So I usually ask about provisioning systems. If you're getting weird behavior where you can't get accounts migrated very easily, and there's internal errors showing up in the logs. Okay, so that's basically it to get that reinstalled. And when I went through and I added it, of course, you want to look for where your project is. And here's the project name, Bilbo Atom in my case. So that's the one that when I'm adding a new DSA, it again asks me, okay, where's the Atom project at? And you just put the information as you saw yesterday. But the name of the server, the NetBIOS name, and then the port. And it's typically 389. Okay, and my credentials, and away I go. I just selected my project. All right, so one more thing about the DSA that becomes very useful when you're troubleshooting. If you also have a problematic DC, it's good to change it to point to an alternate DC. So if it looks like maybe something's weird is happening with the source domain controller, then you can come in here and go to properties, right click on your machine name where your DSA is located, and then you have both your domains here, and you can just set your preferred domain and preferred global catalog. Okay, so that'll point you to exactly where you want to go. And if you're having trouble with these particular DCs, then just come in here and change it to something else, an alternate DC. A lot of the times that will clear up problems. Okay, it's a good feature to have.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not sharing right now.
I was just going to tell you that, Bill.
Oh, no. How did that happen? Let me go back here. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Share. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let me just go back and do this again then.
Okay.
Once you've got your new DSA in, or just when you're regularly troubleshooting in DC, we can set up where exactly we're pointed to for domain controllers. So it can be useful to switch which domain controller you're speaking to in troubleshooting. And again, that's just going to be here under properties. You right-click whatever machine name. You might have a bunch of machine names in here, and each one of the machine names in here will have a DSA installed on it. You can only have one DSA per machine. Okay, so go into properties, and here's where you'll set. You have both your domains, source and target, right? And you'll just click edit to set your preferred domain and preferred global catalog. So that's where you'll change that. That'll come in handy. So keep an eye on that one for various troubleshooting practices.
You actually edit that? Does it show you the DC you're connected to now, or?
Yes, in the logs it'll show you which you're connected to. Right now,
but when you're in here, it doesn't show you?
Well, I didn't set them for mine here yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't set them. I only have one, so it's
okay.
Yeah. But normally these would be filled out with fully qualified, domain names.
Okay.
Okay. And over here in this tab for the DSA as well is the scheduling. So for testing, if you're doing a lot of testing, you might want to come in here and drop this down to 1 minute or 2 minutes, something like that. And that way it goes on its deltas a lot more quickly. So you might be making changes on the source, right? We call it tickling an account. Maybe we add a description field or a space or an X somewhere on the source user that we're trying to figure out what's wrong with. And then that will come across in 2 minutes time versus 15 minutes waiting for it to come out of its delta. Okay, or its sleep period, I should say, out of its sleep period. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and you can set synchronization not allowed, so you can just highlight that radio and then select block out a white space or whatever, right? And that'll give you the schedule that a DSA is run. Most people just have this running full time, and this just stays defaulted to 15 minutes. Okay. All right. So that's it for the DSA. That's how to control it. Like I said, you don't need to mess with the services. They're all handled on their own. Some services stay running, others shut down and start up when they're needed. All right. Now, the next part is troubleshooting why aren't users migrating, is to go directly into the Atom and look for the user. Many times you can have multiple records in the Atom database. So the user got matched up with a SAM account name that was on a wrong user in the target, or they changed the name last minute after matching it to another user in the target. There's a few different reasons for why matching might become confused. But when you really need to dig deep, you're going to go into the Atom project directly. And that's just using LDP. You can do that. So we use ADSI edit. So I'll just show you how to do that. Again, there's my project name, Bilbo Atom, right up there. And I'm just going to go in ADSI edit. And I'll right click. I'm going to connect to, I'll just call it Atom. And then the select point. So here's where I just want to set it to CN. CN equal to Bilbo Atom. Okay? And then which computer, because it could be, on another server and not necessarily this one. So I can just say localhost, in this case, localhost :389, because that's what the Atom is running on, the Atom service. Just say okay. Okay, so it went in there successfully. Yep, as soon as you get the arrow, you know that you've pulled down, and now I'm in the Atom project. Okay? And there's a bunch of stuff on here. Most of these down here, these last four, you don't tend to go into much. Not very helpful. All the information about the project can be found in here in one place or another. About agents and all that sort of thing. You can find stuff in here. You can find stuff out about licenses, and there's KBs around that to run license counts on this project database and stuff. The one that I'm most interested in for you guys for troubleshooting, the one you're going to use the most, is you're going to make a query, and you always have to query it from here, from the root. Query. Well, I'll just call it find user. And let me just go to my source domain here for a moment and see the name of a user that I know is migrated. Bilbo users. I'll try Bilbo 1. Actually, I should look on the target for the migrated users, then I'll know for sure. Target DC. That's weird. So I do have a Bilbo 1, so that's what I'll use. As the user, I'm going to try to find in the Atom database. Okay, so find user Bilbo 1. Then I'm going to set the root, and I'm going to set the root to that one, AMM project. It's my base root in here. And the string. So here's the part that you want to practice up on your LDAP a little bit. But for the most part, you're just going to go, you're going to call it Alita-AMM-source SAM account name, all one word, is equal to Bilbo 1. I've got a T there. Alita AMM. Now, Alita is the name of the software, the original software developers. That was the name of the company, and this software was called Alita something. So we changed it to QMM. All right, so Alita AMM source SAM account. Oh, I need my T there. Equal to Bilbo1, and then just say okay. So it's going to search the entire project for that user. And oddly enough, it actually didn't find it. That's a little bit weird. Bilbo user 1. I'll try that. Bilbo user 1. I can go in here to settings and edit that query. I think that's spelt wrong. Alita AMM. Oh, I'm missing an N there. That's why. Let's go back to Bilbo 1 then. I just spelt it wrong. Okay. There. So it found it that time. So here's my user over on the right hand side. Okay, and it's just an ugly GUID found in this database. So if you want to know what it is exactly, you have to go to the properties of it to be sure. So here you can see what the matching is between source SAM account name is Bilbo1, and it's matched here on the target to Bilbo1. So that's one way you can tell, okay, my guy's matched to Bilbo1 in the target. The problem is it matched to something else. Okay. Here are the attributes we used for stamping. This one here. So this one here, distinguished name. No, that's not what we use for stamping. Sorry. That's interesting. Seems I'm struggling to get to the bottom of my screens here. My desktop wants to stay in view. So if you want to know what the stamping is, you have to go into the domain pair properties itself, and we'll just see where the attributes are used to stamp matching into. So if I go to object matching, okay, I know that I'm matching on SAM account name, then email, then SID history. And on the target, I should see for a user class object, we should be stamping attribute 14 and 15. For source side, in a two-way sync, this would be populated. But one-way syncs, it doesn't populate back on the source. And this is really making my life hard, this thing. Now there should be two stamped like this. It should be extension attribute 14 and 15 should be populated here, but I don't see them, which is odd. So for some reason this doesn't have its stamping attributes. That's extremely bizarre. Unless it was switched before on these, but I don't think so. Anyway, the point being that if you come in here and you see that you're mismatched to someone else, like a different target name or whatever that you don't want, then you can delete this record. Okay, so you can just say cancel on this and delete it out of here, and it's pretty harmless to do it. It doesn't blow it up. It's always wise to take a backup of this anyway, and those files are located For the Atom instance, you go to C drive, program files x86. Not under x86. We're going to go back to just program files. There it is, Microsoft Atom. So here's where the files are, because it's a file database. My service name is called instance1 in services. And here's where the data, and you might just take a backup to this folder, right? This handles the DIT database and everything. So this is what you take a backup of, and then you can delete stuff out. And it usually has little effect, and then you can make sure that the user gets matched up properly that way. In other words, make sure that your SAM account names match. Okay. So I'm just going to, whoops, cancel on that one. Sorry if this is hard to follow with all these screens here. I'm having a little trouble.
No worries.
Okay, alright, so let me just check my list here. Oh yeah, so how to unstuck a DSA, or also known as the synchronization. So you'll go like this. You can search. Normally I just directly go down into it, but you can also, whoops, create another query. And this time, whoops, new query. I'm going to find synchronization. And I'm going to put it in here as the base. And then I'm going to call this Alida dash AMM dash name equal to synchronization. Let's see if that finds it. And it does. Delete it. So there's my thing. So go in for properties to double check, and what you should see is Alida AMM name down just a little further here is synchronization, in fact, of course, right? So that's how we know we're on the synchronization tab. And this is where we can control if you get a hard stuck that you've tried to stop the DSA and it's just sitting at some percentage and it just will not continue. Then you can come in, try to turn the services off if you can through the just stop sync. If that doesn't work, then just come in here and you can go, there's an article for this as well. And you're just going to set these three things to 0. Alida AMM current state, set it to 0. And then there's a start and stop. Right there, start operation, set it to false, and stop operation. Just so you set them both to not in the process of those operations. Current state is 0, and then your DSA should become unstuck. Okay, you'll find that helpful when they hit that snag. All right, so that's how you get a DSA unstuck. That's how you search the Atom for users. To try to find, because what will happen is there'll be, like I said, for the user, you might have 3 records in here. So you right click, you find the one that you do want that should be matched up properly, and then delete the other ones. Right click and delete them, and that way you've got a nice cleaned up Atom project with the right user matching in it. Okay, that'll get around a lot of problems, because sometimes the DSA will get confused with users, it will, and it'll act bad and funny behavior and so on and so forth, until you sort this out. Now, the best way to remove things from this database, though, is through the undos of migration sessions. So don't forget about that. Let me just go back to the console here. Over. So if you go to migration sessions, any one of these that you click on is going to have the undo. So here's the undo. You'll just go through. You'll select, let's say there's 100 users in here and you only want to undo 3. Then you can just select those 3 individually. Okay? And then you just advance it. And it says these will roll back, so it'll just go through the process. Of rolling it back out of the target and removing it. Okay? So there it is. That's done. Okay. So we've looked at how to find users, how to get the DSA unstuck, which is a big one, happens quite a bit. Setting your preferred DC, you'll use that quite a bit to repoint the DSA to alternate domain controllers. And the last one I wanted to talk about was just to review the import files again and how they work, what they're for. So a typical import file. Well, let me just go to Notepad here. Or is that one open on the desk here? Oh, never mind. I'll just open it. Notepad. Okay. So you need the first 2 columns have to be your matching columns. Same account name, tab. Same account name, tab. And then from here, you can change whatever you want. So it's going to find the match in the target, even if the name is different, and you set it here. It'll find that match. And then you can name, say, you can change user principal name. And you can change name. You can change anything you want, essentially, at this point. Okay? So that's really all I wanted to point out there, that the first 2 columns are for your matching, and then the rest are for whatever you want. It's also for if you might already have different names in the target. So if he's Bill in the source, but he's John Boy in the target. So now it'll find that and match Bill into John Boy. And it'll set user principal name, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Okay? So I can change it from anything to anything. Alright, so I just want to remind you, and that's because a lot of people use those import files. And then make sure that it is in fact saved in Unicode. You'll see a text here. I think ANSI works too, but Unicode will work for sure. It's best. So you can save that, but I think the ANSI works okay too. But sometimes you'll get funny problems with import files. The other little trick is to make sure that there's no space. See, because now that's different. That's space Bill and not Bill. And they can be hard to see in these files because they're tabbed and the tabs jump different distances. So sometimes you might have to search this. If you can't get a match done, you're going to look closely at their import file to make sure they haven't put an accidental space in there. Okay?
Now, Bill, if you don't want to change the user principal name or the name, you just leave those out and it'll just do a straight match, right?
Exactly. Just take it right out, just like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like when they want to change it.
That's right.
It's already, okay. Especially maybe if they already have the target object made kind of thing, or is that...
Yeah, especially when it's made, because a lot of the time the naming convention might be different on the target, so they come in here to say, this is like just how to force a match when the names are different. Or if you want to change the creation on the way over, if you want to change Bill and create him as John Boy, you're going to use this import file as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so there's good articles in the knowledge base. Just type in import file. You'll be all set with, some examples, and if there's anything else you want to know about it. Usually they're not very complicated. People, they just create them to get this done, get their matching done. They don't have to use import files if the account is the same. Same account name is already the same names over on the target or whatever. Then they don't use or require import files. But sometimes people still build them. That's so they know who went inside their. They have a file with the record of it. Okay. All right. So that's basically it. I just wanted a short one today, half an hour, kind of wrap this up as far as the DSA is concerned and running various migration scenarios where you're going to look to solve the problems. So, do you have any questions now? that you can think of?
No, not yet. But what I'm wondering is, I didn't get the. Can you send a recording from yesterday too, and this one too?
Yeah.
I just like to stick it in my
Yeah.
recordings folder.
I was just going to put this ending piece on the other one. That's why I was waiting, and I'll try.
Okay, cool, excellent.
Yeah, I'll try to get it done as soon as I can. It probably won't be today because I'm just so bloody flat out. The boys are at me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So I'll see what I can do about getting that done up, and yeah, and then everybody will have links to it.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
All right, so there'll be one tomorrow, and then probably one on Friday. But if I'm out on Friday, what are your guys' time zones?
I'm actually out on Friday, and I'm out on Monday.
Oh, okay. All right, so we'll have one more tomorrow. We're gonna talk about the rum part of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll have one. Oh, you're out on Monday too?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I just took a couple of days. So, yep.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. We'll probably do it on Tuesday then. Yeah. Something like that.
Okay, cool.
Or Jordan, if I do.
Yeah, don't you usually take? Everybody tells me you usually take Friday off, so that's why I don't bug you.
Yeah, I take Friday afternoons a lot. Sometimes full day, but most of the time Friday afternoons. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's summer. A lot of people do that.
Yeah. What are you guys in? What for time zone? I forget. Are you Eastern?
We're Eastern. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
both. I'm in Massachusetts, and Jordan's in Delaware.
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. So yeah, we'll.
So you're in Halifax, right? You're an hour ahead of us.
I am. Yeah. Atlantic
Okay.
time. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Like I said. All right. So that'll be the next things we do. Try to think of some questions. If you have any questions, lay them on me. Get them ready and ask some practical questions about how you're going to go about, troubleshooting, hitting the ground running kind of with this, if that's possible. The thing about this tool is it's easy to understand the concepts, but you'll be quick to be a deer in the headlights when they start asking questions about configurational scenarios. You'll start thinking, and that's when it'll hit you. This like, oh, okay, this is kind of complex to understand the scenarios. So that is the biggest thing. If they're just coming to you with typical errors, we've got a well-developed knowledge base, and most of the stuff you're going to find in there and have some pretty good ideas in which direction to go with things. All right.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. All right. I will. I'll send that next training session out for tomorrow, either today or tomorrow, when I figure it out.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Bye bye.
Appreciate you.